I never thought I'd end up writing something like this, but here I am, just months before what I thought was going to be the happiest day of my life, realizing that everything I believed about my marriage was a lie. Her name's Emily. She's the kind of girl who always knew how to play the perfect wife in front of everyone. Beautiful, charming, with a sharp tongue when she was annoyed, but outwardly sweet and caring. We had a good run, or so I thought. We met in college, and after years of dating, I finally proposed. Her family loved me, I was ready to settle down, and I thought we were building something real. But little signs started creeping in about 6 months ago. She'd be distant sometimes, cancel plans last minute, and suddenly her phone was glued to her hand. She'd get defensive if I asked about it, like I was invading her privacy. She'd snap at me when I tried to be sweet or intimate, saying I was smothering her or that she needed her space. It was confusing. Still, I convinced myself that maybe she was just stressed or needed a break. She'd come back around always, acting like nothing was wrong, and I'd try to ignore the gut feeling that something was off. Then, last week, I started noticing her phone disappearing from the bedside table more often. She'd pretend she was just texting a friend or checking something for work, but I know her. I've known her long enough to sense when she's hiding something. That morning, I woke up and she wasn't in bed. The house was unusually quiet, and I figured she was in the shower or maybe out for a run. But then I saw her car wasn't in the driveway. I checked her phone while she was gone, something I normally wouldn't do, but I was just curious. I found a string of messages with someone named Ben, and the way they talked. It wasn't just friendly. They were sharing plans, talking about meeting up. I felt my stomach turn. I didn't want to believe it at first. I told myself it could be nothing, just a friend, maybe a coworker or a neighbor. But I knew better. I knew that tone, that familiarity, the way she described him as the only one who truly gets her. I looked through her recent call logs, and sure enough, they'd been talking a lot, especially late at night or early in the morning. When I confronted her about the messages that evening, she didn't deny it right away. She looked surprised, annoyed even, that I had found out. Her response: she told me I was overreacting, that it was nothing serious, just a mistake she was confused about. She said she loved me, that she was just lonely and stressed, and that Ben was just someone she'd been talking to in a weak moment. That she didn't mean to hurt me, that it was just sex, and she didn't want to ruin everything we had. Her words felt like knives. I could see the anger and disdain in her eyes when she told me that, and I knew she was lying. She always had a way of twisting things to make herself the victim. I looked at her, hurt and furious, realizing that I was sitting here, months away from our wedding, and she was cheating on me with our neighbor, someone I'd never even really considered as a threat. That's when I started questioning everything. How long had this been going on? Was it just the sex, or was there more? Did she ever truly love me? I felt betrayed in a way I'd never experienced before. The woman I trusted, the woman I wanted to spend my life with, had been sneaking around, lying to my face. And the worst part, she was so dismissive, like I was just too stupid to see what was happening right under my nose. I knew I had to confront her again, figure out what her real game was. But I also knew this was just the beginning of a long, painful road. The confrontation that night was something out of a nightmare. I'd never seen her so defensive, so outright dismissive of my feelings. As I laid out the evidence, her messages, her calls, the fact that I'd caught her leaving Ben's house at dawn, her reaction was icy. She rolled her eyes, scoffing at me like I was an idiot for not understanding her situation. "You're overreacting," she snapped, crossing her arms. "It's just sex, okay? Just a stupid mistake." I was confused, and honestly it meant nothing. "You think I'm some kind of cheating whore? Get real." Her words stung like a slap. I felt my chest tighten, anger bubbling up along with a deep, sinking disappointment. How could she be so callous about this? How could she dismiss it as if it was nothing more than a one-night stand, when I knew damn well it was so much more than that? She kept insisting she loved me, that she'd never meant for it to happen, but her tone was dismissive, almost contemptuous. She was trying to make me feel guilty for catching her, as if I was the one who had done something wrong. Meanwhile, she kept accusing me of being paranoid, of not trusting her, which made me burn even hotter. How could I trust someone who lied so effortlessly? The truth was, I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train. All the love, all the trust, the foundation of everything we'd built was crumbling in real time. I could see the lies in her eyes, the way she'd quickly switch from defensiveness to playing the victim. She told me I was just jealous and that I didn't understand her. That she needed space because she was overwhelmed and confused, not because she was cheating. That I should just drop it and move on. But I couldn't. I knew she was lying and that this wasn't some fleeting mistake. This was betrayal, pure and simple. I felt a mix of heartbreak, rage, and a sick sense of betrayal so deep I thought I might vomit. I wanted to believe her, I really did, but the proof was all over her, and her attitude made it clear she didn't care about the damage she'd done. That night, I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I'd just learned. The woman I'd loved for years was hiding a secret, one that shamed me and made me question everything I thought I knew about her. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I was so blind to it. Was I just too trusting? Or was she just that good at hiding her true self? Suddenly, every moment we'd shared, every laugh, every intimate touch felt hollow, like a lie. I kept replaying her words, her dismissals, her lies, and I realized I was at a crossroads. I could choose to ignore everything, pretend it didn't happen, and try to fix what was broken, hoping she'd change. Or I could face the brutal truth, that she had been dishonest from the start and maybe, just maybe, I deserved better. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I made a decision I never thought I'd have to make. I needed to know the full extent of her lies, and I needed to figure out if there was any way forward, whether that meant fighting for us or walking away for good. The biggest shock. I already knew deep down that I wouldn't be able to trust her again, but I didn't tell her that yet. All I knew was that the game had changed, and I was no longer the fool in this story. The days that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and a strange sense of clarity. I kept replaying that night over and over, trying to understand how I'd missed all the signs, how her lies had been so convincing. I started digging deeper, going through her phone when she wasn't looking, checking her social media, even trying to find out if she was seeing him again. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed to know how deep this went. What I discovered was even more upsetting. There were more messages, more plans she'd kept hidden. She'd been seeing Ben for weeks, maybe even months, right under my nose. Every time I'd ask her about her odd behavior, she'd blow me off, accuse me of being paranoid, or say I was just jealous. But now I saw the truth. She'd been lying the entire time. The worst part, it wasn't just about sex. She was emotionally involved, calling him her confidant, saying she felt alive when she was with him, and that I was just boring, predictable, and suffocating her. I sat there, reading those messages, feeling the weight of betrayal crush my chest. I thought about all the times she'd snapped at me for no reason, the late nights she'd lie about working late, and the mornings she'd leave early to beat the traffic. All of it, a carefully constructed cover-up. She'd been sneaking around, probably planning her escape, and I was just too blind or too afraid to see it. That's when it hit me. I had to confront her again, but this time I was ready. I didn't want to yell or scream. I just wanted the truth out in the open. I waited until she came home one evening acting normal, or so I thought. I told her I knew everything, that I'd seen the messages, the calls, the nights she'd been sneaking out. Her face froze for a second, then she looked annoyed, like I was ruining her game. "You're overreacting," she said. "It's nothing serious, just a stupid mistake. I was confused, okay? I don't know what I want anymore. Maybe I just needed to feel something different, something exciting. Doesn't mean I don't love you." Her words felt hollow, like they belonged to a stranger. I looked at her, trying to hold back the rage, the disappointment I'd built up. I asked her flatly, "Are you even in love with me, or was I just a placeholder all this time?" Her eyes flickered with anger, then with that fake sympathy she always put on when she wanted to manipulate. She tries to lie her way out of it, of course. She claims she's just confused, that Ben was a mistake, that she didn't mean to hurt me. But I knew better. I saw the way she looked at him in her messages, like he was the only one who truly got her. That realization made everything worse. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could someone I loved so much turn into this cold, manipulative person? I kept my cool, though. I told her I needed time to think, that I wasn't going to make any decisions right away, but I already knew what I had to do. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. I felt my heart breaking, but also a flicker of resolve. I wasn't going to be a fool anymore. I deserved better, and I was done playing her game. That night I went to bed alone, staring at the ceiling, feeling everything unravel inside me. The woman I'd given my heart to was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. I knew I had to decide soon, whether to fight for her, to try and fix what was broken, or to walk away and start over. But one thing was clear: I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when I knew the truth. And honestly, I was too hurt, too angry to stay. The betrayal had cut too deep. The next few days were some of the hardest I've ever gone through. I kept oscillating between anger, sadness, and a kind of numbness that made everything feel surreal. I couldn't concentrate on work, couldn't sleep, and every time I looked at her phone or saw her in the house, memories flooded back. Good times, bad times, all of it tainted now by lies. I was stuck in this terrible limbo, trying to make sense of what had just happened, trying to figure out what to do next. I spent hours just walking around the house, not knowing if I should pack my things or try to talk to her again. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she'd hurt me, but I also felt this strange, almost pathetic hope that she'd come clean, that she'd finally admit it all, and maybe, just maybe, I'd be able to forgive her. But deep down, I knew that forgiveness wasn't coming easily, if at all. The trust was shattered, maybe beyond repair. One afternoon, I decided to go for a walk just to clear my head. As I stepped outside, I noticed something strange. Her car was gone. My stomach clenched. Usually she left early, but that day she was still home. I got curious, so I looked through the window and saw her sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone with that bored, dismissive expression she always had when she was trying to ignore reality. I watched her for a few minutes, feeling like I was observing some stranger. That's when I saw her pick up her phone again. She was texting someone, and I couldn't ignore the feeling. This wasn't over. It wasn't just about her sneaking around with Ben. It was about her trying to hide her tracks, trying to pretend everything was fine when she was obviously planning her next move. I realized then that her confusion was just her way of buying herself more time, more lies. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, pretending everything was okay when I knew the truth. I started planning my next move, what I was going to say, what I was going to do. I didn't want her to know I was onto her yet, but I wasn't going to let her keep pulling the wool over my eyes either. I was fed up with her lies, her manipulations, and her disrespect. That night I deliberately left my phone on the table, playing it cool. I wanted her to think I wasn't suspicious, at least not yet. I was going to catch her in her own game. I had already set up a plan. I'd follow her one of these nights, see where she went, who she met. I didn't know what I'd do if I caught her again, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this, feeling like a fool, constantly waiting for the next betrayal. Her behavior was becoming more reckless. She'd stay out later, meet up with him without any shame, and I could see she was starting to enjoy the chaos she'd created. That fake smile she wore in public, the way she dismissed me, everything was a lie. I felt like I was losing it, but I also felt more determined than ever to get to the bottom of this. I had to find out if I was just some placeholder, or if she still genuinely cared about me underneath all her lies. I looked back at all the years we'd shared, my hopes, my dreams, and wondered how much of it was just a fantasy. I'd always been loyal, faithful, patient, and now I was facing the bitter reality that the person I loved the most was capable of this level of deception. I had no idea how I was going to fix myself after this, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending. Not anymore. The night I finally decided to follow her was the night everything changed again. I had been planning it for days, waiting for the right moment when I was sure she'd be sneaking out or meeting him. I didn't want to make a scene or blow everything up prematurely, but I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to see for myself just how deep this all went. So around midnight, I slipped out of the house quietly, keeping my eyes on her car as she left. She wasn't cautious, probably too confident in her lies, and she drove to a small, secluded parking lot near the edge of town. I followed at a safe distance, keeping my nerves in check. I saw her get out of the car, adjusting her jacket, looking around like she was sneaking into some secret rendezvous. Then she knocked on a door I recognized from the neighborhood, a familiar face, Ben's. My stomach twisted, hard in my gut. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I watched her walk inside, hand in hand with him, like they were lovers without a care in the world. I stayed in my car, frozen for a moment, trying to process what I was witnessing. Everything I'd suspected, everything I'd feared, it was all real. She was cheating on me, not just emotionally but physically, with our neighbor, right under my nose. I wanted to run in to confront her right then and there, but I knew I had to do this smart. I pulled out my phone and started recording. I needed proof, solid proof, in case I decided to throw her out. I recorded her laughing, kissing him, whispering things I didn't want to hear but knew I had to. For the first time I saw her for what she truly was, a liar, a cheat, a woman capable of betraying everything we had in one reckless night. When she finally came out, I stayed hidden in my car, staring at her through the dark. She looked different, more confident, more fearless. She got into her car and drove away, leaving Ben alone in the parking lot. I sat there for a few minutes, trying to breathe, trying to process what I'd just seen. My mind was racing. How could she do this? After everything, after all the promises. I knew then that I couldn't go back, not after witnessing her with my own eyes. That night I went home feeling numb but also somehow relieved. I had the proof I needed. I played the recordings back, listening to her voice, watching her laugh and kiss him. It was sickening, but it was real. I realized that no matter what she'd said, that she was confused, that it was nothing. This was a full-blown affair. She was making a mockery of my love, my trust, and everything we'd shared. The next morning I woke up with a plan. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time armed with the truth. I sat her down, showed her the recordings, and told her I knew everything. Her face froze, and for a moment she looked scared, almost like she'd forgotten I'd been secretly recording her. Her response: she tried to brush it off, say it was just sex, that she was confused, and that it didn't mean anything. That she still loved me and that she would stop seeing him. I looked at her, feeling a mixture of rage and heartbreak. I had given her every chance to come clean, to be honest, and instead she was trying to manipulate me again. I told her I'd had enough, that I deserved better than being treated like some fool. I told her she'd crossed a line I would never accept, and that I didn't want her anymore. I told her I was done with her lies, done with her games, and that I'd be leaving as soon as I could. Her reaction was nothing like I expected. Instead of begging or crying, she sneered at me, told me I was overreacting and that I was just insecure, that I'd driven her away and that she didn't need me anymore, that she was finally free. I saw the cold, bitchy side of her I'd never seen before, something dark and ruthless. I realized then she was capable of anything, and that if I stayed, I'd just be throwing myself into a nightmare from which I'd never wake up. So I packed my things and walked out that day, feeling a strange sense of relief mixed with a deep, terrible sadness. I knew this was the end of us, that I'd lost her not because I wasn't enough, but because she was never really with me at all. And as I drive away, I can't help but wonder how I let it get this far, how I could have been so blind. But I also know one thing for sure: I won't let her destroy me. That betrayal has scarred me for life, but it's also shown me what I deserve: someone who doesn't lie, someone who truly loves me. I just hope I find that someday. Now that I'm finally out of that mess, I've had some time to reflect. Honestly, it's the kind of pain that stays with you, no matter how much time passes. There's this lingering ache in my chest, a constant reminder of what I lost and what I was foolish enough to ignore for so long. The betrayal cut deep, not just because she cheated, but because she did it with our neighbor, a guy I thought I could trust. It feels like a punch to the gut. Every time I remember the way she looked leaving his house at dawn, so carefree, so confident she'd gotten away with it. I've learned a lot from this experience, lessons I wish I didn't have to learn the hard way. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. No matter how sorry she might have been, no matter how many times she said she loved me, her actions proved otherwise. It's funny how the mind works. I kept telling myself I had to forgive her, that maybe she was genuinely confused or lost. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was just making excuses for someone who had no respect for me or what we shared. Moving forward, I've decided to focus on myself. I've started going to therapy, trying to piece myself back together, and honestly, it's helping more than I thought it would. I'm rebuilding my confidence, learning how to trust again, but more importantly, I'm learning how to value myself. I realize now that I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect, not lies, cheating, or dismissive bullshit. That realization is both freeing and painful. It's like waking up from a nightmare and realizing the world is a lot harsher than I wanted to accept. Every day gets easier, but I won't forget what happened. I won't forget her either. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew. But I've come to see that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes people are just not who they appear to be, and you have to accept it even if it rips your heart apart. I've learned to let go of the hope that she'd change, that she'd come to her senses. Because people don't change unless they want to, and from what I saw, she didn't want to. In the end, I hope this story serves as a lesson for anyone who might be going through something similar. Don't ignore the signs. Trust your gut. And when you find out someone you love is cheating on you, whether it's with a neighbor, a friend, or anyone, you have to decide what's more important, holding on to the pain or walking away to save what's left of yourself. Because, in my case, staying would have meant sacrificing my dignity, my self-respect, and my future. I'm not perfect, and I still have moments where I feel foolish for trusting her at all. But I know now that I have to put myself first. The pain will fade. I know it will. And someday I'll find someone who truly cares, who values honesty and loyalty. Until then, I'll keep rebuilding, bit by bit, day by day. That's all I can do. And maybe, just maybe, this nightmare will turn into a lesson I never forget.